There we go. And I am going to, play for you a little video about the Atlantic Institute at this time. Oh, I gotta press screen share. Oh God, what happened? Sorry, everyone. 10 minutes coming. All right, share screen. Share. Okay, I think we got it now. All right, and let me see here. Oh, meeting another person. And we're gonna play our video now.
The Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting harmonious coexistence between peoples of various cultures, faiths, and backgrounds. We seek this goal through peaceful dialogue, education initiatives, and community organization. Our dialogue events bring together experts, community and faith leaders, and knowledge seekers to address social issues that affect us all. We feel dialogue is the most important element in peaceful coexistence, so we try and maintain several panel discussions, TED Talk events, and book clubs throughout the year. These events touch on social issues, race relations, and cultural understanding, and are a mainstay of our programming. The Atlantic Institute's education events are extremely important to our mission of understanding. We want to promote socially forward critical thinking to students of all ages. To that end, we have developed programs that seek to grow the creative spirit of students and help them think about their communities and the world around them. Our Future Leaders of Dialogue event brings together nominated elite students to learn from each other as well as political and business leaders. Our art and essay contest gives students a theme about important societal issues and allows them to create wonderful works of art and writing while steering their minds towards improving their world. We're always seeking ways to educate youths and adults in order to make a peaceful world for all of us. Our community events are designed to transform neighbors into friends and groups of people into a community. By associating with other nonprofits or by our own initiative, we are always trying to discover new avenues to improve our neighborhoods, places of worship, and community centers. We host cooking demonstrations of food from other cultures, work with various nonprofits to help elevate the work of others, and try to find a way to make the lives of those who are disenfranchised or marginalized better. Building a more peaceful world starts in our backyards, so we are dedicated to improving our communities and associations. The Atlantic Institute is always seeking like-minded volunteers and collaborators. If you would like to learn more, find volunteer opportunities, or just want to chat with our staff, please visit our website at www.atlanticinstitutesc.org or follow us on Facebook. We will never run out of fun, educational, peaceful events, so come join us to help make this world a better place full of understanding and unity.
All right. Wonderful. So so please check out our YouTube, and our recording tonight will also go up on our YouTube, Atlantic Institute, so please check that out. But thank you for joining us for Harmony in Service, Navigating Wellness for Nonprofit Leaders with our speaker, Jarrett Ransom. A little bit about Jarrett. She has an MBA and is known as the nonprofit nerd. Jarrett lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and began her consulting firm in 2009, working exclusively with nonprofits nationwide. Under her leadership and guidance, teams across the nation raise millions of dollars every year to support and sustain her mission. Jarrett has helped create sustainable fundraising strategies for startup to multi-million-dollar organizations. As president and CEO of the Raven Group, Jarrett consults with nonprofits to help them see the future of their organization, not just their immediate needs, but several years down the road by providing strategic planning extending 3, 5, 10 years and beyond. For the past 4 years, Jarrett has been the co-host of the Nonprofit Show, infusing each episode with her vibrant energy and passion. Now she leads Nonprofit Nerds, Impact Unleashed, a podcast delving into wellness discussions with nonprofit leaders nationwide. Together, they offer insights, tools, and strategies for managing the challenges of both personal and professional life. Additionally, Jared has lent her expertise as a host and MC to numerous live events, supporting nonprofits in their vital fundraising efforts. And if you have any questions for Jarrett throughout the time that she's speaking, just put them over in the comments, and we will get them at the end. But right now, I am going to turn it over to Jarrett, and it is your show.
Thank you so very much. I always love when someone says nonprofit nerd and they're like, really, is that really what it says? So I had to grab my glasses. These are legit like bifocals, but these are my nerd glasses. So if we were in person, I typically bring these to all conferences, all speaking engagements. They're actually branded with my company, but legit nerd. So I really started calling myself a nonprofit nerd because I found myself literally nerding out over pretty much all things nonprofit. I would say until you were blue in the face, because I never became blue in the face talking about something that I just love talking about. So I do use that language quite a bit. I'll be like, I was nerding out over this study, or let's nerd out over so-and-so. And if I call you a nerd, also please know that is intended to be a huge compliment. So yeah, thank you for having me. I have a slide deck, so I'll pull that up and hopefully everyone can see that. For those of you that are joining us live, so glad that you're here. Please know I am very casual in style. So if you have any questions, like Jenny said, definitely use the chat box, questions, whatever. Go ahead and utilize that. I'm here for the full hour, and I would love to be of service to you and your mission and however it is that you're showing up in this world. So today, as we talk about harmony in service, navigating wellness for nonprofit leaders, I wanted to share that I've been in the sector 20 plus years. Fun fact, and I hope Jenny doesn't mind this, but we actually grew up together, childhood friends. And that was when we were doing, like birthday parties and sleepovers and all kinds of fun stuff. So we actually are from a very small town outside of Columbia, South Carolina, rural South Carolina. In 2001, I found my way out west and have not really returned back. It's been a lot of fun out here. I still have tons of great roots in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. And I try to get there as often as I can. But as the nonprofit nerd, I do work across the nation, and I've also helped some missions globally. I really love the nonprofit sector. I have dedicated my life and my career to this sector. It means so very much to me. But above and beyond the mission and above and beyond the organizations that I am privileged to serve, I want to mention that all of you are just as important as the missions that we're working in and on. So I have found myself in burnout, experiencing burnout. Publicly, I share too that I struggle with depression. That is something that has shown up for me in my life since my 20s. And so really navigating that wellness, self-care, how can I be of service to other people when there's some days that seem like being of service to myself is a very heavy lift. So I like to share this, that who I am is way more than the nonprofit nerd, right? Like way more than showing up to help teams fundraise, delivering this webinar. And I would like for you to also honor that in yourself, because we all show up in a lot of different ways in our life. So here are some of the titles that I have and own and hold, dear to me. And some of them are new. I shared that the bonus mom, the wife, all the dash in-laws, right? Like those are newer titles for me. In September of 2022, my husband and I did get married after like 10 years of dating, and learning to juggle that in addition to being an entrepreneur and working in the nonprofit space, it was one more thing for me to learn to navigate. And so again, I share this openly so that hopefully all of you can also recognize and notice for yourself, you are more than your title. You are more than your resume. You are more than what shows up on LinkedIn. And as we navigate this conversation, I do encourage you to think about all of the ways that you show up in the world. I like to talk about hustle and grind culture because I would love for this culture to come to an end. I recently saw this beautiful quote from Cole Arthur Riley, who is a beautiful writer. She does some great works, and it says here, "Don't demand someone else's exhaustion because you are exhausted. We have to want care and rest for others as much as we want it for ourselves. So refuse to welcome people into the same chains that hold you. We get free together." And this is something I wanted to start off with because I do believe that the hustle and grind culture has become really glorified, and we have to work harder. We have to do more. We have to everything, right? And almost to the point where rest culture has become obsolete. I did pull out, this is a deck that I just love. It's an organization that I follow. It's called the Knapp Ministries Rest Deck, and I'm just going to show it up here for you. And this is also anti-hustle and grind culture. And it's 50 practices in here to resist grind culture. And I hold about every 6 weeks now a virtual meetup on Zoom, same platform here, and it's called Real Talk. And the reason I decided to do this Real Talk is because of the hustle and grind culture. The requirements of all of us to show up 100% of the time, right? And that's just really not realistic, and it's not sustainable. So I just pulled out these cards, and I won't of course be able to read all of them, but during my Real Talk conversations, and again, they're free. I hold them about every 6 weeks, and I started them because I found that myself, I needed to have some real talk. I was craving the desire to talk with other nonprofit leaders in this space about our obstacles, our challenges, everything that we're facing. So as I shuffle the deck, this card is on top, and it reads, "Rest does not have to be earned." And I'll show this up here on the screen. I do have a green screen, so the green isn't necessarily showing. But I love this because what this tells me is I can speak for myself, right? Oftentimes, if I do this, this, and this on my to-do list, as soon as I get this, and this done, then I will rest, right? And that to me is something that I am working on. It is a practice, also known as a muscle, that we can strengthen and really work towards building the practice towards that. But just as a reminder, rest does not have to be earned. And again, it's just something that we can all work towards. So as the slide that you have in front of you shows, really for too long, we have glorified this culture. Burnout is not glorious. It can be deadly. There have been so many numerous situations of leaders across the world. And I'll also put a little tidbit here. Anytime I say leader, I believe we're all a leader. We all show up in a capacity and an ability to be a leader. So if you're finding yourself, well, I'm not a leader, I do encourage you to step into that, because I fully believe that we are all leaders in some way, shape, or form. So I like to talk about the work-life blend as well as self-care. So you'll notice the blend word is here as opposed to balance. In 2017, I wrote an article about how I did not subscribe to work-life balance. I subscribe to the work-life blend. And my friend Jenny and I were just talking about how we live our life and we have multiple, work opportunities. I myself, as a consultant, I get to work with a lot of different organizations. As I like to say, I get to play in a lot of different sandboxes, support a lot of different missions. But what that can also do is have me running 90 miles an hour in 12 different directions. And so I find myself not really finding that balance. And so I really adopted the language of the work-life blend. And for me, and coming from a place of privilege, I do have the ability to drop my son off at school, pick him up if he's sick. When he was younger, I attended a lot of his field trips and things like that, the activities that I had an invitation to do. So I was not working the 8 to 5 or the 9 to 5. And for many of you, this might resonate. I am not a 9 to 5 person. I've also identified for myself that the morning time for me is much more productive, much more creative. And come 2, 3 o'clock, I get really tired. My brain energy, my power, like really all of that kind of natural extrovert that I have inside of me starts to kind of plummet. And I will acknowledge, as we're doing this conversation right now, it is past that 2 o'clock time for me. So it's also one of those where it's like, I can absolutely do it. It's a little heavier of a lift, but we can do that. I try to limit as much of these in the late afternoon and evening for that self-care so that I can truly find that blend. For me, I find getting up early in the morning, getting an exercise in, that also helps my depression. It is a natural endorphin. It really helps my energy level. A lot of hydration, of course, here in Phoenix, which is really important. But finding that blend for you and that self-care. This is an exercise, maybe you've seen it before. We're not going to go through it today, but I do encourage you to look it up. It's called the Wheel of Life Assessment. And I did give kudos to scottjeffrey.com is where you can find this Wheel of Life Assessment. Just like any wheel that is round, if we get a nail, if we, have a puncture in the wheel and it kind of starts to deflate, our wheel gets really lopsided, really off center, and it's not balanced, right? Going back to that balanced word that I don't necessarily subscribe to. But if we look at this as the wheel, and if you were to plot, where are you in your career? And this is really about like, how do I feel joyful, fulfillment, success in my career? On a scale from 1 to 10, you would plot your assessment, your personal assessment on that career pie. And you would do that for all of these pies here. So again, not an exercise we're going to do, but I do think this brings up a lot of awareness for you to really identify, where are you feeling drained? Where are you feeling like some energy vampire has come in and just completely latched onto you and drained out, all of your energy, all of your excitement? Perhaps you're not having recreation and fun. Perhaps you are not putting time in with your significant other or your friends and your family. Maybe your financial means are down the toilet, right? So when we are kind of out of alignment, if you will, on this Wheel of Life assessment, that will help to bring some clarity, and maybe even some realignment back to where you want to spend some time. I'm very grateful. I've got a wonderful group of friends here where I live in the Metro Phoenix area. And many of us, even though we are well into our 40s, maybe even beyond, right? We still plan play dates because we find that playing and being playful is really important to us. That could be going to a comedy club. It could be going to a theater. It could be going to, a paint shop or just doing something to have some playful energy with one another and with friends. And so again, if this resonates with you, something you'd like to look further into, scottjeffrey.com, you can find this wheel for you right here. So as we move into all of this, here's some stats. So if you are not a woo-woo person and you're thinking, this is all great, but show me the data, here's some data and some statistics that you might want to pay attention to. Really looking at these from a point of nonprofit organizations. And I think, well, the number that I say is currently there's 1.8 million nonprofits registered in the US. That's registered. I know for a fact there are so many others that are not registered with the IRS. And then also looking at how many of those 1.8 nonprofits employ, many of us. And so my first bullet point here is 11.9 million Americans make up this largest workforce of the nonprofit. It is predominantly women. About 75% of that 1.8 million nonprofits It's predominantly women. And then also we are currently experiencing a huge shortage within our workforce. I do believe there's a lot that goes into that shortage, and I can speak to that a little bit more. But part of that too is the stress and burnout that I'm definitely driving in today and honing into on today's conversation. Some additional stats to share here. 53% of the women say that their stress levels are higher than they were about a year ago. And this particular stat is from April of 22. So that was 53% higher than April of 21. A third have taken time off because of mental health challenges, and only 43% are comfortable talking about these challenges in the workplace. So I really feel for so many of us, myself included, because we have yet to normalize the conversation of well-being and wellness and self-care. It still has the stigma tied to it, or I believe it still has the stigma tied to it, and I see that showing up often. And that, I believe, attributes to the reason that 43% of the individuals, that completed this are not comfortable talking about this in the workplace. And I believe there's a lot more that goes into that when it comes to safety and security. For any of you that might be Brene Brown fans, I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, but really looking at a place of vulnerability and shame and, do we feel safe sharing these intimate details, in particular in a workforce or a workplace that might not really embrace that kind of conversation and communication today? So I want to provide some solutions and some resources, some tangible things that you today can walk away from. And these are all tools that I use myself, which include time blocking and sprints. I found a fun quote from Michelle Obama, but talking about how, she prioritized exercise because she realized, that happiness was tied to how she felt about herself. Similarly, for me, I just shared, I really do like to start my day waking up and doing some type of exercise. But time blocking and sprints for me means that, throughout my day, I might schedule 45 minutes, 90 minutes to really focus on a task that I need to get done. Preparing for today's conversation, I did just this, right? Like I would find a time that worked within my schedule. I would time block 90 minutes to work on the slide deck, or 45 minutes to work on a social media post, whatever it was. And I would turn off all distractions, cell phone, emails. I would shut my door, like any kind of distraction that would keep me from being focused on this time block. We all, I think, have heard, which I kind of think is fun, when we're like squirrel, we're totally distracted and we go in a different direction, right? That happens to me quite a bit. So if I don't time block and I don't turn off my notifications or anything that might turn me in another direction, I get distracted. I then fall behind on that task. So time blocking works very well for me. I also often use an accountability buddy. So I will reach out to a friend of mine, and we might schedule a couple of working days throughout the week, and we will block the same sprint time as the other person. And so at the end of that time block, or that end of that sprint, we would come together and say, okay, how did you do? What did you work on? And we would really find that reciprocal accountability as something beneficial for both of us. So again, I'm really providing hopefully some tools and resources that work for me. They might work for you. Mindful moments. That's another big aha that I had, is really quieting my brain, building in time. This is a quote from Melinda Gates, but building in some time for mindful moments. There is an exercise I like to do when I find myself really unregulated, dysregulated, not sure which is the proper grammar. And it's pretty simple. You would stick your hand out and you would take your other finger, you would put it at the base of your palm, the bottom of your thumb here. And it's a breathing exercise, and it's called roller coaster breath. And it is a mindful moment. And as you do this, you can do this by yourself. For those of you that might lead and manage teams, this could be something that you do even virtually or in person as a team setting. But you simply breathe in as you go to the tip of your finger. And then you breathe out as you trace down the other side of your thumb. And then you breathe in again, all the way to the tip of your pointer finger. And then you breathe out as you trace down. And then you continue this obviously for the next 3 fingers, but it's just a very simple breath exercise that when you do this and when I do it, I really do find myself breathing deeper, breathing longer, finding an opportunity to catch my awareness and really just become more centered and grounded. So roller coaster breath might be something you want to consider. You can Google that. I'm sure there's tons of resources online to help you find out how would I manage to lead this with a group. But look up roller coaster breath, and it's very simple with your, with your 2 hands. Fun story. I did this with my mom. And we did one hand, and then the next one, she put her other hand up, and I was like, what? And she's like, I have 2 hands. So if you would like to do both of your hands, you certainly can. Or you might find that literally just doing one hand, your 5 fingers, a few simple seconds of breathing, intentional, purposeful breathing will help to reset in that mindful moment. I talked a little bit about self-discovery as well as awareness. For me, I do find knowing those activators that set me off and really help me kind of go in another direction. Today, I did not have a good morning, and I was trying to figure out what is going on, like what is setting me off, right? And I realized I think I'm a little overwhelmed. Looking at all of my to-do list, pardon me, I just traveled a couple of weeks ago, and then I have another travel, trip coming up the same month. And so what I'm realizing is I am pretty much hopping from place to place to place, and I'm not feeling very grounded. And having that awareness for me to identify, okay, what is happening? What are the activators in my life that might be, throwing me off my own course? That to me is huge awareness. And if you can find that for yourself, I think you'll start to then navigate your own harmony and service and what that looks like for you. I bring up identifying your zone of genius because this is something that I love to talk about. And it really is finding that natural talent. What is the natural talent that you have, you own, you possess? For some people, it's public speaking. For others, it is certainly not public speaking, right? It's really finding out what is that thing that you love to do. It seems so effortless and you feel energized, as you do this. So if you would like to identify your zone of genius, I have written down the 6 steps here that you can access them, and really just start to identify what are some of the things you do on a daily basis. What are these that if you put a heart next to it, these are tasks that you love to do, right? Maybe marketing and creating some designs in Canva or any other design element platform that you use. Maybe that's your go-to that you love to do. And then you just go through this simple 6-step process, and you will begin to identify where your zone of genius is. What are those things that come naturally to you? I also encourage you to take this outside of the workplace and into your home, because this is really personal as well as professional. If you think of things around your home, the things that you gravitate to do. I know when I was young, I loved vacuuming. There was something super satisfying about myself putting the lines in the carpet when I was done. I felt complete. I felt satisfied. I felt like, wow, I can tangibly see my progress. And then when it came to, I don't know, like organizing my bedroom, that did not bring me so much joy. And it certainly was not my zone of genius. But I will say today, there are some amazing professional organizers, and I guarantee you when they were a child, they probably would have loved to come over to my house and help to organize my bedroom. So I think when it comes to self-awareness, knowing your zone of genius, where are those skill sets that are currently on your to-do list, maybe your day-to-day, that you love to do? And then on the flip side, what are the things on your to-do list that you do not love to do? They do not come natural to you. They possibly drain you, back to that energy vampire. And it's just something you procrastinate, because I was just coaching with someone recently, if your day and your week has more of the items that you do not naturally gravitate towards, you're not feeling a lot of joy, a lot of fulfillment in your day-to-day life. And so there's probably, you know, no reason why, you're showing up every day going, oh my God, I'm dreading today because I have to do more tasks that I really don't feel comfortable doing. And they're draining. So back to harmony and service, all of this, again, I really want to say, for those of us that serve our community, I want you to think about how you are also serving yourself and what you're doing as you take care of your community to also take care of yourself. There's a lot that goes into this. And if you want, you can scan this QR code. It takes you to my podcast, which also talks about really navigating the same conversation. How can we have, resources and tools at our ready to navigate some really difficult things? A couple of things I want to mention here, and this is for myself, right? I am definitely a people pleaser. I'm a helper. I, have experienced trauma in my life. The majority of our nonprofit workforce, I believe, also comes from a place of people pleaser, perfectionist, right? I'd like to say recovering perfectionist. But I want to help. I really want to help. And it's often done so sacrificing myself, my health, my wellness, my time. And I was recently at a dinner party, and there was 10 of us at this dinner party, all nonprofit leaders. And in our conversation, and it was more of a personal conversation, we realized that at this dinner party of 10, 9 of us had experienced trauma. Nine of us had some relation to being raised by an adult with alcoholism or addiction. And so really looking at, and I would love to do more research and study into this, looking at the makeup of the nonprofit leaders in this space. Who are we? And what really pulled us to this sector? My license plate reads "Be of Service," and right now I'm redefining what being of service means to me and what it looks like, because have found, right, for myself, that I give of myself so very much, and I rarely take the ample time. I take time, but I don't often take enough time to really reconnect and recharge for myself. So I'm working with a coach right now, and that was one of her assignments, was for me to redefine being of service. And then also aligning my values with my actions. I shared earlier, Jenny read in my bio, I'm an entrepreneur. I work with a lot of different organizations, some really fantastic missions. And where I am today, 15 years as a business owner, I wasn't always in the place I am today to say no to work, to projects, to clients, right? When I first started, and I share this very openly, money was green and I needed it, right? Like I needed to pay my mortgage. I needed to have health insurance. I needed to put food on the table for myself and my son. And I wasn't always in alignment with my values, and my actions were showing that, right? Like I was working with missions that their culture didn't fit my culture, or their mission was not something that I 100% believed in or supported. But I found myself making these excuses because I needed the money, right? Like I needed to make ends meet. And the more and more I find that when I'm able to align my values with my actions, the fulfillment and joy factor, back to that wheel of life assessment that I shared a few slides earlier, it is like off the charts, right? I'm loving the work I do. I'm loving the culture that I get to be a part of, the conversations. I'm part of change management conversations and making some really big positive impact in my communities. So I am doing everything I can today to truly align and realign with my values, because there are times, right, when we get off course, and that's okay. We can readjust and realign. But authentic relationships, I also believe, will help when we build and we foster those authentic relationships. The more we can show up as ourselves, the more we can honor others for being themselves, just like these discussions. And the reason that the Atlantic Institute has this is really to foster a sense of community and a sense of inclusivity. And I subscribe to that 100%, especially when it comes to being your authentic self. I think that's the best way we can love others and we can love ourselves, is being ourselves and honoring that in other people. One of the talks I do, and I don't have the ability to dive deep into that today due to time constraints, but nonprofits are governed by board of directors. And so one of the talks I also do is about building your own personal board of directors. So if you see the slide here, there's a couple of chairs, 1, 2, 3, 4-ish that are black and one that's red. Let's say you're in the red chair, right? Like you're sitting there and you have the remainder of the chairs open. You're sitting at this table and you get to choose your personal board of directors. Like, who are the people that you want supporting you, your personal mission, your true alignment, and your values? And I like to encourage you to think about people that challenge you, the people that, say, I know you can do more. I've seen you and I challenge you to do X, Y, and Z. Who are the people that hold you accountable? Jarrett, you told me you didn't want to take on any more clients with X, Y, and Z mission. Are you holding true to that? Because this client seems a little questionable based off of your previous, intention. So I like to bring this to light from the personal side, our professional side, rather, that we're all so very accustomed to in the nonprofit space, into our personal world, right? So again, if you had the ability to fill up a boardroom table with those personal board of directors to support you, to encourage you, to challenge you, to hold you accountable, to be your cheerleader, who would they be? And do you currently have them, right? These could be colleagues, they could be family members, they could be people maybe that you haven't met yet. So there's more to that conversation, but I wanted to plant that seed because it's something, again, that we're all so very familiar with from the fiduciary agents of the governing body of our nonprofits. Board of directors are so crystal clear, or should be crystal clear. Maybe that's another conversation. Should be crystal clear when it comes to aligning every decision to forward that organization's mission. And that's the same for your personal board of directors. They should do everything in their power to help you as a person forward your personal mission in life. And so I wanted to share that with you. Another resource that I use with my coaching clients is this. It is really this productivity column, purposeful productivity, because I also wanted to say, really being busy is not productive. Being productive is productive. Just being busy for the sake of being busy is something that I think we all just need to do away with. But this is a tool that I use, again, for myself as well as my coaching clients. It's very simple. You can do it on a piece of paper. Oftentimes on my office wall, in fact, to the right side of me, I have a big flip chart paper and it is sectioned off this way. What do I need to do? And that will list pretty much everything, right? Like that is a laundry list of everything that I need to do. I'm also the kind of person, I don't know if any of you can resonate with this. If I'm trying to go to sleep and something pops into my head, right? Like I have to get up and write it down or it will just keep cycling and cycling and cycling and cycling and I get no sleep. So I have to get up and I have to write it down. And once I do that, I've released that thought and I can now hopefully go to sleep. So on the left column, the to-do, you will literally write down all of your to-dos. And then I encourage you to pick no more than 3 of those to-do list and put them in your doing column, that center column. No more than 3 because I don't want you to overwhelm yourself. Let's just keep those in the to-do. And then once you have completed one of your 3 in the doing column, you simply move that to the done column. And if you're like me and you really find gratification in checking that list off or, scratching through it, whatever it is that you've completed, you will see physically that list of what you have done and what you've completed in the right-hand column. I find a lot of this to be super beneficial, not only for me, but with my coaching clients, because they often find, I don't really know what I did this week. It's just been a really busy week. But when you implement this practice in particular, you visually see what you have to do, what you are currently doing, again, no more than 3, and then what you have completed as that check mark. So I share this with you. If it's something you wish to implement, great. I hope that it works for you the same that it has worked for me. And then also, let's celebrate your talents. Let me go back. Celebrate your talents, celebrate the things that you do well. Let's celebrate. I'm big on celebrating the small things, the big things, everything in between. Too often we get stuck on what we haven't done, what we didn't do well. And I really do want you to celebrate your talents of where your zone of genius is, and also having that awareness and knowledge of what isn't your zone of genius, and to be able to gift that potentially into another setting. I was working with another team outside of California, and I was working with one of the individuals, and we were talking about, her zone of genius and what comes natural to her. But she manages a team, and those other individuals, they also have the ability to take on other tasks, as well as she has the ability to delegate. And so my recommendation through our coaching was to find out the skills assessment of your entire team. Find out what they love to do. If they love to do the monthly newsletter and that's something that drains you, perhaps you can do a trade, right? Perhaps you can say, kind of like the Go Fish, right? Like, I'll take this if you'll take this card of mine, and this works great for us. Now, I realize that's not everyone's culture, but I do like to bring that up, because when that is available and you can celebrate your individual talents within the team to create these win-win scenarios, that's where I think we need to go and really look towards shifting what's on our to-do list or what's on our job description when we have the ability to be flexible in that space. So I know I shared a lot with you. We still have some more time here, but I also wanted to share with you another QR you can scan. This will take you to my nonprofit success journal, where you'll also find some tools and resources if you wish to take a look at this, share it with your team. And again, you'll see in here, it's got your to-do list and it's got some celebrations, always hopefully to help you find harmony in service. Because right now we are really in a workforce shortage within our sector. Again, I myself have experienced burnout. The majority of my roles have been fundraising. And I just wanted to also share that the national standard, or tenure, I should say, of a development director is 16 months. 16 months. The average tenure of a CEO is about 6 years. And I believe that a lot of this is attributed to even why, Jenny was saying she invited someone to join us today, but they had to work, this evening with their nonprofit. And I believe a lot of this is attributed to our early mornings, our late nights, our weekend commitments, also not enough compensation in our sector. That's something that I definitely stand on a soapbox. I'm really big on pay transparency, pay equity. I will not share any job description on my LinkedIn profile if it doesn't have that salary range, because I really do believe that we are a sector that should be paid equally for the skills and the talents that we bring. And often that, not enough compensation is something that, we're losing a lot of. And when I work in organizations and nonprofits and I see the payroll and I see the threshold, if you will, of what they are being paid, I'm like, they could be a recipient of our programs, right? Like our threshold of what we are paying our team and our staff is often the same pay requirement of many of the participants that we serve in that space. And so there's a fine line there that I really want to see us increase. So yeah, there's a lot going on in our community, a lot going on in our sector. It is a sector that I love dearly, and I want so many of us to stay in. I want us to maintain being of service to other people. And I know we've all heard this. There's two analogies. One is the airplane, right? And Jenny and I were talking about this. You have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can put it on someone else. And while I'm sure we have all heard that, we have also, I'm assuming, taken that for granted and still kind of ignored that and still took care of someone else. And mind you, it's hard. I get it. I really do get it, because we get to work with a lot of amazing communities, a lot of amazing individuals that need help and they need support. The other analogy, right, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. And how many times have we heard that and we've ignored it, or we've done something different? So again, I share that really because I hope you see myself. I see myself in you as a mirror. We are here to serve. We are here to be of help to so many other people. And we really do. It's time to put ourselves in that mix and at the top as well, so that we can be here to help and to serve to other people. So I just downloaded a lot. I feel like I was on my soapbox for quite some time. But Jenny, that's it for my formality of a presentation. Again, I'm very casual in style. If anyone's interested in questions or however you'd like to lead the next section, I'm here for it.
Yeah, gosh, thank you so much. That was and I feel like I really needed to hear a lot of that stuff. I'm not a nonprofit leader. I of course work with a nonprofit, but how
Yeah.
much I feel like these resources are so great, especially for nonprofit leaders, but really just anybody.
Yeah.
Like
It
these
is.
are just great
Yeah,
practices.
I think that's valid. I mean, I focus on the nonprofit space because that's where I'm in. And I really do know that burnout and stress and mental health, um, it's on a rise, right? I mean, we all, if we're here, we thankfully lived through COVID. I also say pandemics plural in the last 4 years, because we've really been through a lot of duress, right? Like no matter where we are in the nation or even in the world, there's a lot going on in our world. And I think, we really need to pay attention to that. I myself was an interim CEO when March of 2020 hit, and I was working with an organization that provided basic hygiene, soap, hand sanitizer, socks, shampoo, conditioner to individuals experiencing homelessness here in the Metro Phoenix area. That was right in the crux of all of it, right? So many of us here joining this conversation today or the recording, we really have a lot of privilege. We come from a place where we can find access to these resources, or we know where to get access to this. But really, there's so many communities that don't have that ability. And I found myself March 2020 leading that organization, and a lot of long days, a long of late nights, early, and so I really find myself over the last 4 years in this go mode, 90 miles an hour, go, 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 go. I am just starting, I'm realizing this, starting to decompress since March of 2020. I'm starting just now. Like I didn't get to bake bread. I didn't get to have all these cocktails, and no judgment if any of you did. I didn't have the ability, to do all of that. And so I didn't have downtime during the height of the majority of this because of the sector in which I work, and the resources that were needed. So I just shared that because I want us all, myself included, to give ourselves some grace and some time to really unravel and to begin focusing and prioritizing ourselves. So it doesn't matter if you're in the nonprofit sector, any sector. I do know that it's prevalent everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I was telling someone recently, I was like, I don't, it was one of the first things you talked about was grinding. Like I was like, I don't want to grind anymore. Like, I thought that doesn't
No.
interest me anymore. So
Yes, I
yeah.
know. Well, and it's become glorified, right? And so
Yeah.
really like, how can we collectively encourage others to not grind and to not, perpetuate this hustle and grind culture? I'm not a big runner, but I think this is relevant to share. I have done a couple of half marathons. I was a soccer player, but I was not like a marathon runner. And I would use the Jeff Galloway method. And that is a running method that you run for a certain amount of minutes and then you walk for a certain amount of minutes and then you run again and you walk again. That is a mindful practice, right? And I think it's really relevant to share because whether it's work, whether it's personal life, whether it's extracurricular like sports and hobbies, there are ways to be mindful and to be present and to take your foot off the gas intentionally. The other thing with this Jeff Galloway method is it's intentional to actually maintain your speed. And so the whole method talks about if you were to just run from the start line to the finish line, your speed will actually start to taper. You will start to get slower as the miles go on. But if you implement this run for a few minutes, walk for a few minutes pattern, you will actually maintain that speed that you started with. And so I think sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, I feel that if I go slower, it will hinder the time I get to the finish line, the proverbial finish line or the real finish line in this case. I find, just remembering that it's okay to pause because that will help me maintain that stamina, if you will. And again, it's just another mindful practice, but I love that analogy. And Tabitha, I'm glad that you liked it as well, that it resonated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And it reminds me of I teach theater to children off and on. And I did not come up with this, and I can't a very well renowned theater teacher did. But we have something called the observation deck. And if a kid is it's just like usually a chair off to the side. But if they're just having a hard time, they're overwhelmed or they're in their feelings or they can't sit still or they're just not in sync with everybody else, they're invited. They don't even have to talk about it. They can just get up, walk over, sit in that chair. You don't want them there the whole time. You want to put a little bit of parameters around it, but they can just go and sit and just simply observe what's going on around them. And then when they're ready to rejoin, they do so. And I find that really effective in kids. And I feel like it kind of goes along a little bit with this analogy that you're talking about, like it's okay just to step out sometimes or go slower or,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you were sharing that, I'm like, is there one for adults? Because I think I would need that as well.
right? I have said the same thing. I think we should have an observation deck everywhere available for adults. I want one
That's a good one.
too, says Tabitha. Yeah, right. Isn't that a great idea? I just love that. I love that idea. So yes, if anyone has any other questions here as we're wrapping up, please put them in. This was just so wonderful and so many great resources, and just thank you so much, Jared. And it will be up on our I enjoyed the session, great strategies and information. I followed on LinkedIn. Yeah, I put some of Jared's links in the comments. I felt like I was being distracting, so I got a lot of them in there though. So yeah, so go check her out, follow her on LinkedIn. And then of course this is going to be available on our YouTube, on the Atlantic Institute YouTube, so you could refer other people to it, go watch it again. But if no one has any other questions, was there anything else you wanted to say, Jared, before we wrap
I
it up?
will very quickly, and I'll drop this in the chat because it's long, but the 2023, this is where I got nerdy. The 2023 nonprofit workforce survey results is where I pulled some of these stats. And so I'm going to drop that in the chat. It's a PDF. It's quite lengthy, 45, I think, pages. It probably is something I will print and highlight. And there's just a lot of really good information. I do find that it's the most recent data and stats when we talk about the nonprofit community and the workforce. So again, a lot of the information I brought in today is from this survey, and you can see how that relates to this conversation. It does break down some specific states based off of the people that participated in the survey. I know my state of Arizona showed up. That's not a point of pride. We often, show up in places that I don't find as a point of pride, but looking at, there's many areas in that survey that you might find interesting. And yeah, I know I did, and I still find myself referencing it. So it's
Wonderful.
lengthy, but it's there if you'd like to reference that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That's a wonderful resource. Wonderful. I'm going to stop our recording now.